Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. Be Tuesday. What's up, everybody? Callow, did you get pepper sprayed last night? You good?
No comments. No, I don't know what you're talking about, Bram. That has nothing to do with me, by the way. No one take any context of that. That does not have to do anything to do with me.
You weren't out with them last night? No.
I was not out with certain hockey players that were arrested allegedly in Arlington that were pepper sprayed.
The off season, boys.
My God.
Oh man.
I mean,
when you read the reports, it sounds like a benign pepper spraying. If you sounds like they just kind of had to do it, you know.
I do have to say this in terms of mug shots. Alex Alexiev's pretty good mug shot, all things considered.
Yeah, he was having a good night until he wasn't, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
My favorite part was actually on social media. Couple like Instagram posts on it. People were like, "Hockey player got in a fight at 3 a.m. What else is new? Like, what else do they do?
What else are they going to do at 3 a.m.?
That's right. So
All right. Let's see. Let's get into the other stuff. Frankie Luvu goes on the Good Morning Football show, tells Kyle Brandt when asked specifically, because he is the avatar of trying to stop the tush push and no one's able to do it yet. Should they ban it because it's going to get voted on this week? And I will tell you about the little changes that were made to try to, which signal to me it will be like in some form. But they asked him, do you think that they should? And he said, yes, they should. And his reasoning for it was, of course, this goes back to the NFC Championship game. They were on the goal line. Luvu is penalized 3 times for jumping over the line of scrimmage before the play is run. He gets a number of penalties, which gets the unusual. We have warned you that if you do not stop doing this, we're going to award a touchdown, which would be like a first in 60 years of officiating, that they were just going to award a touchdown. And I was like going, apoplectic in the booth about this because it's just utterly ridiculous. He's trying to time this thing up. No one has a solution for this thing. The Commanders have been complaining that it's an illegal formation, let alone all the whatever parts of it that you don't like about it. And he says, yes, I ban it. So now that we've had someone on the team say that, because Dan Quinn stayed away from it when asked about when this came out initially, he stayed away from it and was like, the rules are the rules. They're going to do what they want to do. I got really no comment about this. And honestly, we just have to try to stop the thing like everybody else. Luvu's the first to say, yes, ban it. And by the way, the wind is blowing that it's going to be in certain forms. So, we'll get to that in a minute. But what'd you think of him saying that?
One, I liked that he had an opinion on it. I just want to say that outright. Like, he did not shy away from saying yes or no. I have said this, and I agree with him, that essentially it is not in the spirit of American football, of what that play has become. I get a quarterback sneak. I have no problem with the quarterback sneak. What I don't like, though, is an offensive line basically aiming to cut down a defensive line, and then a quarterback being pushed by multiple people behind him. And we've had this discussion many times. I'm waiting for the time a quarterback gets hurt because he's being pushed from behind into a pile. And I've just said it's not in the spirit of the game. I'm with you. Like, once I heard the report of the Eagles were calling people yesterday, like trying to advocate like a DC lobbyist or something here, I went, oh, this is not going to go well, or the rule is about to change. I've said this before. If you want to modify it so you can't push the quarterback, I think that's where I land here, because I've heard of a lead blocker, but I haven't heard of a behind blocker. Like, we've never had that happen really in football. So that's where I've landed on this. I don't think it's in the spirit of football, honestly. And honestly, it's a dangerous play. Like, somebody's going to get hurt on this eventually. And I know it hasn't happened yet, and it's hard to, get ahead of preventing that. But that's how I felt kind of this whole time. I have not liked it, and they need to modify it. I'm okay with the quarterback sneak and like the same formation, maybe not the same formation, but a similar formation. I'm okay with it. But I've said time and time again, it's not in the spirit of the actual game.
So I come from a place of, they're not the only ones allowed to do it, right? Like, everybody could do it.
Of course. Yeah.
No one else seems to be able to do it as well as them, or even come close to do it as well as them. So why are we punishing them because they happen to have gotten really good at something? And there are plenty of plays, or there are plenty of moments in sports, but in football, there are plenty of plays that teams get so good at, it becomes somewhat unstoppable. This just stands out because, like, of the formation, it's so far different than everything that they do otherwise. And if they get into a 3rd and 1, forget it. 4th and 1, forget it. Even now, it's almost 3rd and 2. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. Like, they have it down to a science about how far they can actually go and get to it. They, from 3rd and 2, they could do it twice and get a first down every single time. But this doesn't stop anybody else from doing this. And I've seen others kind of semi-try to do it, but they can't. And so I kind of come from a competitive place of, well, they're really good at it. I'm sorry, you just have to figure out how to stop it. And that's where I am on it, with the exception of one part of it, which is what's coming now. This is going to get not banned, because you can't ban a quarterback sneak.
No, of course not. Of
right.
course. No, that's what I was getting at. Like,
yes.
You can't.
Like, that's what this is. It's not a sneak. It's a quarterback push. But yes. Like, you can't ban that play. Like, that's ridiculous. Like someone's going to hike the ball. The quarterback's going to put his head down and try to get a first down. You can't ban that play. What you can ban, and what is going to be banned tomorrow, because the Packers, who are the ones that submitted the thing to it, made a revision to it. And that revision clearly was a consensus revision that everyone told them, if you want us to actually vote for this, this is what you're going to have to do. And it's going to have real ramifications on a million other plays, actually, and not just this one. They initially submitted a proposal to ban the push at the snap. Like, the Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, whoever, Dallas Goedert can't get behind Jalen Hurts and start pushing him. You can line up that way. You can go low with leverage for the offensive lineman. There's nothing we can do to stop that. Fair is fair. But what you cannot do is push or pick up Jalen Hurts and push him forward and use that momentum of the wave. That's what's going to change. But the only way they could get this passed, clearly, was they had to revise it to not just be this, to be pointed at this particular thing, but to actually make it illegal to do this anywhere. And that's where this is the part of this I'm actually going to hate a little bit. How many times have you seen a player downfield get stood up, right, by defensive players? We saw this with Brian Robinson a million times. It will happen with Josh Allen a million times. Doubtful with Lamar Jackson, he gets down. But the players who invite contact are tough to bring down, get stood up, forward momentum isn't stopped yet, and some lineman catches up to them and pushes them, and oftentimes pushes them the pile into the end zone, scores a touchdown. If this rule goes through, and it sounds like it is, that technically is going to be illegal. And that's what I hate about what's happening here now, because they're going to change things that I actually think nobody's complaining about. Like, you want the players to hustle. You don't want them to stand up. You want them to have secondary and third blocks. But now, if a player, technically, if you read this, is in one of those moments where they're kind of stood up, but the play's not over yet, if you push that player forward, you will have committed a penalty, and it's going to negate those plays. And because of that, not only will you lose the forward momentum to where you got to, you will now be penalized some yardage back because of it. I don't think that's a solution. I don't like that, and I don't want that to pass. I don't want that to be the ramification and the collateral damage of trying to do something to stop the tush push thing. But they turned this in and did this because clearly the league told them this won't pass unless you make it universal. So I hate where this is going now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want that to change either. I knew that could be a ramification of it going through. I mean, we know how this league works too, though. They could just not enforce it when it's out in the open field too. Like, you know how the preseason goes. Remember, they like to harp on the rules really hard and they'll penalize things so it gets you ready for the regular season. Maybe they kind of just swallow the whistle when it comes to being, an open field type play. I also said a workaround on this would be, the initial person who touches the ball cannot be pushed. I think that would be a workaround as well. And that way you don't have the tush push play essentially happening. The ball
How
has to
about
be
anything behind the line of scrimmage? How about that? anything behind the line of scrimmage, you cannot push somebody forward.
I think that would work.
Too bad. You can't do anything about it. But downfield in the middle of a play, not designed, and then you're being forced to decide whether did he block somebody who was him? Was he just pushing the pile? Come on, guys. Like, don't make people think about this in real time. You're just making more complicated rules that I'm telling you are going to piss fans off because they're not going to know what the rules are. It's going to be subjective. They're going to call it a lot early. This is the collateral damage of going after a play like this that I think all of us don't like and don't want to see get implemented into the league.
I mean, what I will say is the league might also just be looking at this as, do we necessarily need that play where the running back gets stood up and then is pushed, by his teammates there too? That might be a part of this where the league is going, maybe we don't really need to do that anymore. And, that's going to lead to is the refs are going to swallow the whistle faster too. Like a guy gets stood up, they're going to blow the whistle right away.
Blow the whistle because they don't want to penalize anybody.
So that might also be a part of this as well, is the league might just be going, we don't need to have that contact, that we don't think that play is that significant. And that happens there as well.
Yeah. Here's what I think about the tush push thing. And honestly, I think it's a phase like anything else. And then eventually at some point, someone will either figure out how to slow it down or stop it, or the players they have can't execute it like they used to, and they'll just stop doing it, right? They'll stop doing it if it wasn't 100% working every time, because if it was getting stopped 50% of the time, they wouldn't do it. And instead, everyone I think is overreacting to, they happen to have a play that works. Now, if you want to say, and this is why I liked the original thing about it, you can't push a player at the outset of a play. I agree with that. This isn't rugby. That never was the rule. And as of 20 years ago, you weren't allowed to do the reason they stopped calling it. Actually, they don't even really need a rule change here. They just need to implement the rule that's already in existence, which is you can't assist the player that way. They're allowed to line up. They're allowed to go low. They're allowed to use leverage, and they're allowed to try to make a crease for Jalen Hurts to go over it. What they can do that's already in the rules is the people standing behind and pushing them. That's the only thing but they shouldn't be able to do that anyway, which is why I think this whole argument and discussion about it is stupid. The rule already exists that you're not allowed to do that. The referees, for some reason, haven't called that. There's a couple of other things that have occurred. And in this play in general, similarly, they're offset a little bit on the edges. They're not supposed to do that either. It's an illegal not every time, but it's an illegal formation sometimes, but they never call it. The Eagles have really skirted around figuring, I give them credit because they figured out a way to kind of work the rule book. They're the ones that have the tackles that take the giant step back right at the snap that looks like a false start a million times. I thought it was so rich a year ago when Washington got away with the same technique and they were crying about it. And I'm like, you guys invented this. You invented doing this. This is your fault. And that's what I would say about the tush push thing too. Everyone else can do it. No one's being prevented from doing this. Nobody's as good at it. And that's what I hate about punishing them for it, just because they're good at it. Like, look, Washington last year did this giant step back that looks like a false start. Well, you all invented that. When they cried about it, I laughed. I'm like, you guys are the ones that figured this thing out in the first place. Now everyone else is doing it, and you're upset that it's happening to you? Sorry, guys. The tush push could be the same thing. I would rather it go back to the part that it came up initially. You're not allowed to assist a player at the snap and push them forward. You're allowed to have this formation. You're allowed to do it, but you're not allowed to push them. This rule change, which now sounds like it's going to pass because they made the revised rule change, is going to affect other parts of the game that have nothing to do with this. And that's why I don't like what's happening right now.
I think, though, the punishment towards the Eagles, though, is a little bit justified because of all the things that they do during it. It is pushing the quarterback. It is the weird tackle thing, like you said, that the Commanders have been claiming that it was an illegal formation. Ron Rivera claimed it was an illegal formation before even last year. So that's a part of it. They also do the gamesmanship thing where they pick the ball up and put it forward a little bit. Like, we've seen all the clips of that happening too. I think this is the league, honestly, saying to them, you took 4 or 5 different things and are trying to bend the rules in this play, and it's going to your advantage because we can't explicitly call it, or they've chosen not to explicitly call it, or the refs feel like they can't call it. I don't know. It's probably a factor of all of those things. I think it's honestly the league going, you've overstepped the line by barely going over the line in 5 different areas, essentially. And I think that's where we've landed here. And I think that's where some of the teams are irked about it too, because we've heard about the complaints. It's falling on deaf ears. And I've said this before, you have to, address it when they win the Super Bowl with it, right? Or when they've made it to 2 Super Bowls in the last couple of years. They're a really good team. It's a part of their arsenal. I think this is the league also stepping in and going, you're stepping over the line here. We're going to do something about it. And maybe if they overstep a little bit, they can still pull it back next year. You know how the NFL has not hesitated to have a rule and then walk it back the next year or change it. They've been doing that a lot over the last 10, 15 years. So maybe they overstep here to give them that big warning, and then maybe they pull it back a little bit next year with like the open field.
It feels like what's happening now when I heard about this revision is an overreaction to it, because it is going to affect other plays down the field and the type of plays and the type of, aggressiveness and physicality that people like in the game. No one's complaining about the guy who gets stood up and getting pushed forward by the lineman. And you could call that a not safe play either if you wanted to, but that now is going to be a subjective thing if they pass this much broader thing that they talked about. I prefer they just go back to what they said initially. You can't push somebody at the outset of a play. That's against the rules. That's rugby. That's not what we're trying to do. You can do a quarterback sneak, but you cannot do an assisted version of it. Instead, apparently, I guess teams were so scared to ban that part of it because it looked like a ban of this one play of this one team that has success doing it. They asked them to do something broader. They complied, did it, and now it's going to affect other parts of the game that nobody was complaining about. That's what I don't like about this. There's another one, and this is, I think I always find that the good teams or the winning teams, they always find ways to use the rules to their advantage. It's a sign that they're a really good franchise and a really good team that they've done this. Like the Chiefs do this too. I'm surprised this hasn't come up this year. Pat Mahomes is playing with the rule book in terms of forcing people to use their momentum against them to draw penalties, right? And we all know that he's doing it, and he can lie about it or pretend he's not doing it, but he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows he can't be touched if his toenail is out of bounds. So he waits to the last possible second when this world-class athlete is running as fast as he can and knows he cannot stop his momentum, and then dips his toe out of bounds and gets a 15-yard penalty attached to it. And it's happened. He flops out of bounds to make sure that everybody sees it. And we all know what he's doing. And everyone got mad at Mahomes and got mad at the refs for quote unquote assisting the Chiefs. But all he was doing was what's in the rule book. And that's part of, like, at the time I said this, I go, if you have a problem with what he's doing, you need to change the rule because he's actually not doing anything illegal. You may think it's unsightly. You think it might be maybe Bush League. I might call it that, but it's not illegal what he's doing. You need to change that rule. I similarly look at the tush push and say the same thing. Anybody can do what Pat Mahomes does. Anybody could do what the Eagles do. You might not like it. They just happen to be really, really, really good at it. And I'm actually surprised they have not addressed if you don't actually really run full bore out of bounds and you just try to wait to try to draw somebody into a penalty like that, we're going to have to figure out whether it's a penalty or not, because that one didn't come up. But it falls in the same line of what this discussion is about this, which is playing with the rules in a way that favors you, that other teams are now getting pissed that you're using to your advantage.
On the Patrick Mahomes thing, I've talked to you about it. I think the players police that on their own a little bit. Like, we had the discussion for years of how come Lamar Jackson, when he's running, doesn't get popped as much, besides like some of those rivalry games, like with the Steelers or the Browns or whatever. And I've said it before that essentially it's because Lamar doesn't do that. I saw Lamar do it a couple times last year, but Mahomes is so egregious with it, where he literally stops on the sideline, jukes the first guy, runs 5 more yards, then steps out of bounds. But then Mahomes in the open field, no one's afraid to pop him because I think the players kind of police this. It's a little hockey-esque, I think, in this sense, where I think the players are going, oh, you're going to do that? Okay, I'm going to hit you as hard as I can every single time when you give your body up like that. I'm with you, though. I think that rule needs to be tweaked. Like, I don't know if it's a 5 or 10 yard unsportsmanlike that you throw on Mahomes so you prevent them, or like when you are, going to go run out of bounds, you have to keep your momentum going that way. If you're the quarterback, I don't know how you enforce that one, because it's tough, because I would argue a wide receiver or a running back does the same thing, but a lot of times they're trying to turn on a dime. Like, that's a legitimate play most of the time. That's where that gets murky, because now you're gonna have to have a designation of the player, and that's where we get weird here. So I'm with you. The rule does probably need to be tweaked on that front for that one as well.
Yes, it does need to be tweaked on that front. And here's the other thing, and this is why I think the players get ticked at him more than anything about this. The league is so hypersensitive to the health and safety of the quarterback that when he does this, it often leads to a fine.
Yep.
So it's like one thing to get a penalty. It's another thing to get fined when you're drawn into a fine. Take money out of their pockets. That's what will piss everybody off the most, right? So I think that one needs to be dealt with. I don't know what to do about it, but they need to do something about it, especially the fine part of it. If it looks like he's drawing a penalty and you can't figure out how to change the rule to get him to stop doing it, the least you could do is not fine the offending player.
Sure.
Right. You stop doing that. On Luvu, one last thing about what he said about the tush push that I actually did agree with on him. And I remember this specifically from the thing in the NFC Championship game where he became, the meme of trying to stop it by jumping over the pile so many times. I remember yelling on the air at the time, like, you guys are just playing games. Just snap the ball, Jalen. They were hard counting a little bit on this tush push by the second or third time that they were trying to line up to do it. And Luvu's point is, if we're trying to stop this thing and then they hard count, you already know how hard it is to try to stop this thing. They hard count us. We might just go, this is our solution to trying to stop it. It doesn't look great and it looks kind of crazy, but if they just snapped it when it looked like they were going to snap it, you wouldn't have complained about what I did. And he goes, that's what's complicating this too. That like, you're telling us just stop it. Okay, we're trying to. Now they're hard counting it. We have to time it right. If we don't time it right, it looks silly what we did. I'll hear them on that part. That like, and you can't tell somebody they can't hard count. Like, that would be changing a rule. But at the same time, I'll at least hear him on that part that he's like, I know what this looked like, but you told us we have to try to stop it. We're trying to stop it. What do you want from us?
And to his point, and where it happened on the field too, it was worth trying to stop it that way.
Yes.
They were trying to stop a touchdown. Like, this wasn't 4th and 1 at the 50, right?
I remember saying that on the air too. I go, they're trying to stop a touchdown here. What do you want them to do? Just give up? Like, what are you trying? What are you asking them to do here?
No, and I remember even, I think it was John Allen was on with Chris Long. This was like a month or two ago. He was on with his, and he basically said, like, I needed to throw my body into 2 or 3 linemen. And if you go look at the replay, like, he tries to basically, throw his body sideways into this line. And like, this was it. This is to prevent a touchdown. Like, I'm with Luvu on this one. What do you want them to do? Roll over and give up 6? It's the most important play, literally, that you could try to stop. So I'm with him on that one too, that you pick your spot too. It's not like they did this when they were at midfield. They did this trying to prevent them to get into the end zone.
Right. I'm like, what do you like? So what's your point? You want them to roll over and just let it happen because you think it's inevitable? Like, at least they're trying to stop it. Like, this isn't Game 7 OKC Denver where one team quit. Like, what do you want them to do? All right. The other thing that is coming is the seeding thing. Now, I'm all for this. I don't know where you are on this, but I'm all for this. And I've been saying this for a while. And last year was an extreme example of how bad it can be when 2 teams from the same division have the 2 best records and by a lot. And then all of a sudden one gets a bye and then one likely doesn't play a home playoff game. That does feel truly, honestly unfair. But this is going where I hoped it would go. If you win your division, no matter what your record is, you will get in. So it doesn't diminish the fact that you should win your division. Invariably, there will be a weak division every year in the NFL. Somebody is going to get in at 9-8 or 8-9 or something like that. And they're going to end up ultimately, the way it's seated now, playing a team with because you had to have 11 or 12 just to make it as a wild card. They're going to play a team with 2-3 more wins at home, and that seems absurd. And I'm like, this is such an easy fix. Yes, they can get in, but it doesn't guarantee you a home game. I hope this passes. And I do want to keep the sanctity of winning your division. If you win it, no matter what your record is, you do get in, but it doesn't guarantee you a home game. And the caveat of, if you have the same record as somebody else, because you won your division, you'll get the home game for that, even if you played what is a weaker schedule along the way. Like, that's the other part of this that has bothered me about the seeding. The schedules are not equal anymore. Far from it. Like, if you're in a specific division, or you happen, like the Eagles and Commanders do this year, to play what looks to be extremely hard competition of two extremely competitive divisions, that's not the same as the path of another team in another division. You should be rewarded if you end up having a better record, but didn't beat out the better team in your own division. So I'm all for this. You win your division, you're in. Next three best records get the three best records get the wild cards, but you seed it by record, period, and you reseed by record, period. And that's what the Lions are asking to have happen here, and I hope that it passes.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this too. I wish there was a little bit more of a layer into it. Like, I thought maybe a good layer rule to add in would be, let's use last year for an example. The Commanders won 12 games, right? The Buccaneers won 10. The Buccaneers won their division. The Commanders did not. But for the first round only, because of the way that this is going to settle out, if that division winner did beat their opponent, they get the home game. Like, I would like to see an extra layer thrown in there if you win your division and there's that little bit of a head-to-head factor. So
what if it was the Eagles and the Commanders and they split?
Then you go to the next time. Then it just goes to the division winner. Like that one, because they would have won the division, right? So
I think it should go by record. That's what I think it should go by record. The Commanders still ended up winning more games than the Buccaneers, even though they beat them. So if they were in the same division, technically Washington would be a higher seed than them.
Correct. Yeah. But that's what I'm getting at. Like, when it's not in a division, because clearly your division winner is your division winner, and they have some kind of tiebreaker over. I'm just saying, like, wish there's an extra layer thrown in.
I'd say if they have the same record, I agree. The division winner gets the tiebreaker.
Sure.
Even in a head-to-head, I would say the division winner gets the tiebreaker.
Okay. All right.
But I believe this should go by record, period, that you shouldn't punish a team. Minnesota had 14 wins last year and played on the road in the first round. That's absurd. They earned a home game there. They might not have won it anyway, but they earned the home game, and that's why I didn't like it.
That's fair. I would say this, though, like, are you going to keep that throughout the playoffs then? You're just going to keep reseeding by record?
That's what they said they're going to do, reseed by record.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
That's what they're going to do. So, then last year, Washington would have been the, 3 or 4 seed? I can't remember. They would have had a home game in the first round, and then it would have mattered what happened after that to determine whether they had a home game or not. But I think this rewards the teams for having the best records, and period. And it still will eliminate probably someone who should have made the playoffs, who doesn't have as good a record as the team that won a division with a weak record. So there still is going to be an imbalance there, but I don't want to you might as well not have divisions if winning it doesn't matter. So you have to keep the sanctity of the division. That's the only way this works.
That was always my concern, was you're watering down the division, and then at what point it's a slippery slope that we get rid of divisions, and that's something I don't think anybody wants. I don't think a single NFL fan is going to tell you that they don't want to be playing their rivals 2 times a year. So that's where always my main concern has been with this one.
One other one that's popping up, and I didn't realize this was even up, but it's been under the radar, and Pro Football Talk was talking about this, that there is a rule to change the alignment on an onside kick if a team chooses to do it, which at this point, you're not even allowed to do it until the fourth quarter, and you have to announce that you're going to do it. And it's too complicated to explain, but not unlike when they changed the kickoff rule years ago, where they said you can only have so many people on one side of the field, they're suggesting that the receiving team can only have a certain amount of people in the recovery zone to leave more space and an opportunity to make a recovery easier, because it's just so rare that it actually happens. If this were to go through, it will signal from the NFL that they actually don't want to get rid of the onside kick in perpetuity. I'd rather get rid of that play at all costs. And I'd rather them go to what's been proposed a number of times, some kind of play from some yard line that's 4th and 10, 4th and 12, whatever it is. If you get the first down, you get the ball back. And if you don't, you lose the ball where it is. But at least the players we bought tickets to come see, Mahomes, Lamar, Jaden, etc., they're on the field determining whether you get the ball back again, not the special teams unit with the third string linebacker who has to recover the ball. And if he doesn't, then everyone's ticked off at him until the end of time. I'm surprised the NFL doesn't want to eliminate the onside kick entirely, but if they do go through with this, they're basically signaling that they don't.
What is the exact rule? Like, what makes it easier?
The rule change would space out how many people from the receiving team are allowed to be in a certain zone, therefore leaving more room for the possibility of a recovery. That's all it is.
So they're basically trying to do what they've done in the past, which is get rid of the violent collision because there's 20 guys piling up. Essentially,
they already did that by saying, remember, it used to be everybody would line up on one side of the field.
Right.
It would be like, it'd be car wreck is what it would be.
Right.
Then they spaced it out where they said you could only have so many people on each side of the kicker. And then the kicker would have to like try to trick you which way it was going. And now they're saying if this rule goes through, there will only be a certain amount of people allowed in a zone from the receiving team.
Got it. Okay. I mean,
to try to make more space for a recovery to potentially occur. It still would be unlikely, but it'd be more likely because if you can't put 5 people over there and you can only put 3, well, then there's just more space for the ball to take a weird bounce. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, whatever they want to try for onside kicks, I don't think it's a huge factor in the game. If this happens to be something that is good when they test it out in the preseason or something like that, I'm all for it. But I guess it wouldn't be the preseason. It would really be in training camps, right? When they bring the refs in and like do those practices.
You'd have to figure it out. The refs were there for these dynamic kickoffs a year ago to explain to everybody what's going on here. This year is going to be different with that. I think you're going to see, now that everybody's had a year to deal with it, I think everyone's going to figure out how to game it up a little bit differently this year. I'll be interested to see what they do with it.
What I'm getting at here is like this onside kick thing isn't something that everyone's going to do in preseason. You know what I mean? So this is going to be a little bit weirder where we're not going to probably get good eyes on how this ends up working out anyways. I don't know. I'm hard pressed to even get really kind of any worked up about it because it's an onside kick. It's so rare at this point. I'm with you though. I wish they would just go to the 4th and 12 or whatever, distance has been, thrown out there for that instead of an onside kick. I'm about that life, but sure. If you want to try to modify this, I guess try it.
All right, let's take a quick break. Brad, what's the show? ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Real quick, before I get into Mark Klaus, who did an interview yesterday, the team president of the Commanders, about RFK and what it would be. I meant to mention that Nick Sirianni did get a multi-year extension. They didn't say how long, so the details weren't exactly there. But if you told me a year ago that this was going to happen, I didn't really think I'd believe you. He kind of oddly survived what was the fallout of a total breakdown of the team that like went from 10-1 to couldn't compete any longer and went out with a whimper. The coordinators are gone. They were all replaced. Everyone was describing him as an administrator. Nobody knew exactly what his job was. And then they were by far not close the best team in the NFL a year ago, went on and won a Super Bowl. And man, did he get kind of redeemed in all of this. And here's the team rewarding him. So Sirianni is here to stay. And also, lastly, because he is, stop telling me I look like him. I don't like that.
The other side of that, too, was, he had that kind of, I wouldn't call it a hit piece, but they had that whole breakdown of him and Hertz's, communication. Remember that one?
Yes.
Where they were like, they don't even want them talking to each other.
Yes.
And that came out. Did that come out during the season last year or that in the summer?
I think so. Yeah.
And so that came out and I was like, oh, that's never a good sign.
Or remember AJ Brown reads the book on the sideline and they're telling Sirianni, like, how do you let that happen?
Well, there was that. And like, this is what I'm so torn on Sirianni because it's like, is he winning in spite of having a weird locker room? I don't know. Like maybe he's pushing the buttons in a way that no one else could.
They're winning. They've lost once since October.
Right. And the other side of that too, though, is like the fans seemingly don't really like him either. Like they boo him at every chance that they can, and he'll shoot back at them a little bit. I think he apologized at one point last year, but This is a weird one, and especially I kind of talked about it on my show yesterday once the news came out, where they gave him the extension. You kind of had to give him the extension because he had 1 year left on his deal. I'll say this, though. Like, Roseman and that front office have never shied away from moving on from somebody fast. I'm just saying, with all the factors we just talked about, and you went through their schedule yesterday and what that schedule looks like. And
theirs is harder than the Commanders is. It's
correct.
nasty. Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, what if they go through some of these storylines and let's say they lose the last 2 of 3 to the Commanders to finish the season out? Like, we could hope, right? But I don't think it's going to happen. But let's just say that happens. Like, I was almost like, this still doesn't guarantee that he might not be the head coach at the end of this year. Like, I don't think it would be 1 year and done, but I've seen that organization go, this isn't it. We're going to move on from this. I'm just throwing that out there.
They are going with another offensive coordinator again because Kellamore left.
Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be a lot of changes here, and there were a couple defensive players gone. I mean, they still have the defensive coordinator back, and that was probably the big change for them. And they're very young; they're not paying anybody over there yet. Anyway, he gets his extension. We'll see how it goes. All right, let me talk about Mark Klaus, who did an interview yesterday on like a big major Washington business panel yesterday. Mark Klaus, the new team president of the team, comes from a corporate background with major brands behind him. And he talked openly about the stadium. And I don't think he really broke any news other than you will like to hear that the ownership, of course, because of the connection to going to RFK as kids, remember the stand shaking as being a big deal. Told him, he said, we want them to be able to do that. So they're going to try to, I guess, figure out a way to incorporate that and bring that back into the stadium. But he pointed out, and when he said this, I didn't even think about it, but it's true. He's like, when we build this thing, wherever it is, but likely at RFK, it will be the only major stadium with a roof on it. And I know that some people are going to sit there and go, I love the elements. I do too. I'm going to miss that part of it. But he goes, we're the only ones on like the Eastern Seaboard that way. And I thought about it and I'm like, Philadelphia, Baltimore, the Giants Jets Stadium, New England, Buffalo's not going to have a roof on it. Remember, they said they don't want to put a roof on it. Tennessee's is going to be open air as well. Carolina says, I didn't think about that. You'd have to go all the way down to Atlanta to get to a place where there's actually a domed stadium of this size. And that's going to be a massive, massive draw. This isn't just for it's going to be a spiritual home, really cool stadium for the football team, but it's going to have uses that are beyond that. I've heard a lot about, there was always these rumors that the U.S. men's national team would make it kind of the national stadium. That's possibility. Soccer team, that's possibility. I think it's possible the Spirit could one day be playing in there. I think that's a possibility. And then you start thinking about things like future Olympics, future World Cups, the Eras Tour, which didn't stop in Washington last time, but probably would if this thing actually existed. WrestleMania, major college football moments, friendlies with soccer teams from around the world. All of a sudden, and you can do this now 365. Like, you don't have to worry about the elements. Yep. And he's right. It would be the only one on the Eastern Seaboard that has this part of it. This is why this has to happen this way, whether you like it or not for the roof. I did like the part about the shaking, and I think they're thinking through use cases for this to make it beyond just the Commanders' home, even though that's the biggest benefit, in my mind, is that the Commanders get their spiritual home back, hopefully a world-class stadium in a place that's much more accessible to the region than the one that they currently have, because the infrastructure is already there for public transportation. Complain about the tailgating all you want. I'm sure you'll find a way to have a really good time on game day somewhere, somehow. I'm not worried about it. And he kind of hit all the right notes, but I think the bottom line is we're building something that's going to be used a heck of a lot more than 10 Sundays in the fall.
I've landed on this for a long time that I wanted it to be covered. I think the weather here is honestly not anything to write home about anymore. We don't get snow games anymore. I've joked about this with you all the time. We're Florida now. We get all these little flash rain, like flash storms in the afternoon now all the time here once it hits July and August. And honestly, for the people that are wanting, weather games, what is a weather game to you in terms of like this area? Rain? Because that's all you're getting essentially at this point. Like, we're good for one of those a year, and it's always a crappy weather situation. People don't like coming out for it. You can tell me that those people are soft or whatever, but Look at the game day experience now. People need to have a little bit more comfort than they did before. And I could go either side, but I've always wanted to be covered for the reasons that you're saying here. I want WrestleMania. I want these major tours to come through here. I think when there's stuff in the summer, when there's stuff in June, July, and August, I don't want to be in 90-degree or 95-degree heat and humidity. I'm good on that. I'm passing on that. I'm fine. So I've always wanted this to be covered bare minimum just to protect you from the elements in just a little bit. When it comes to the stands thing, by the way, because I just want to comment on this real quick. I'm sure there's a file on that because they've been saying that for 10, 15 years. Yeah. Like for whenever the next stadium is built, they want it to happen that way. I've said this, like, I think you need to take a page out of the Clippers book with their arena where they have that thing called the wall, and it's one side and it's not luxury seating. And it's like, to use a better term, lack of a better term, the true fans, not people that are sitting in the luxury suites or the club section or whatever. And I've said they need to do almost like a soccer section where you put the diehards in one side of the end zone, and maybe those are the seats that bounce or something like that. Because I know the modern fan here. I know 50% of that lower level is not going to be standing up and jumping up and down for those bouncing stands. But I do know if you put a bunch of the people that are willing to do it, you could have something happen that's really special. So that's always been my suggestion. You do something like the Clippers did where you put the true fans kind of on one side of the stadium. So that's where I've landed.
All right, let me take a quick break. Brave Buster Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. I'm only going to spend a minute on this because I just have something to say about this, which is yesterday we had what has become the norm in sports media, and I'm so annoyed by it and hate it, and maybe it just makes me old man who likes broadcasting the way it used to be, which is just not true anymore. Like they're in so many ways. I respect what all the quote unquote new media people have done. And I'm trying to transition into that as well. And I appreciate, what they've done, and I'm not against it. But yesterday was the prime example of some things that I hate in sports media, which ended up being a beef between Ryan Clark and RG3 over hot takes over Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and the opener of the WNBA season that did include Caitlin Clark's team blowing out Angel Reese's team. And of course, a moment between the two of them where Caitlin Clark fouled Angel Reese, and it was a semi-hard foul, but it was nothing that felt out of line. Reese then reacted to it, and it is very clear. And RG3 made a point when he went on his podcast, or wherever his outlet is, to say, it is just very clear to me that this isn't really a basketball thing. Like, she just really literally hates Caitlin Clark. Why? Who knows? For whatever reasons, I'm not saying I don't know, but she does. And when I heard him say that, I didn't think anything of it. And I actually tend to agree. Like, everything that I've seen looks like that she's either jealous of this. She has stated things that sound like, I don't know why you pay so much attention to her and not enough attention to others like myself. There have been kind of weird moments on the court. Clark seems to try to take the high road at times. That it seems to infuriate it and fuel it even more. I don't follow it every day, though, so I should less comment. But these are the moments that's what I see too. That this isn't just they're rivals with one another. One literally seems to not like the other one a lot, and that's all that RG3 basically said. So Ryan Clark goes on his show, and he basically accuses RG3 of going into the racial tropes of the whole thing. Don't attack the black woman, and then I thought took it way too far and went after RG3, who happens to be married to a white woman. And RG3 is an easy target, especially for us around here, because we kind of know his personality, and he does do corny jokes and all this stuff. But I actually agreed when RG3 responded to him. I agreed. I'm like, that's way too far. Like, you're going to sit there and say this guy doesn't know about about this because he married a white woman. He's basically calling him like a sellout. Like, there's a trope that goes like, you're not black enough if you do that. Like, so this is what I hate about sports media. This became a big deal because they're yelling at each other about things that actually kind of have nothing to do with what they were talking about in the first place. And they're both doing it to garner more attention for their shows because they both know that it's going to gain a lot of attention. And I hate that that's where we are in the media in general. There's an incentive for the two of them to go at it personally about each other, and it kind of bastardizes the whole conversation about the sport, which is why they were there in the first place. I hated what happened yesterday.
Yeah, and like what I thought was actually most unfortunate about all of it was
they're both wrong, by the way, too. They're both wrong. None of them are right.
No. And what I was going to get at was both Clark and Reese after the game said it was nothing. Like they both acknowledged it was a heat of the moment play.
Foul. So what?
Happens all the time. Yeah. And by the way, context for that play, if you didn't see like the whole entire thing, Reese went after one of the Fever's players. Like she either bumped into her or elbowed her or something. And Clark, you could actually see her motion to the ref. What's that? And then when Reese gets the ball, Clark goes and hard fouls her, basically to say, you're not going to do my teammate like that. And which is what I've heard with Clark too, is she's like sneaky on it about defending her teammates. And so both of them after the game, though, were like, it's not that big of a deal. Hard foul happens all the time. Like they both shuffled it under the rug. And that's what I hate about this, because I remember seeing that and going, well, that's great. You both acknowledge that. Everyone's going to talk about it tomorrow anyways, though, because that's what they want to talk about. And lo and behold, it becomes this crazy conversation between RG3 and Ryan Clark.
Yeah. And I just look at the two of them and I go, you guys are looking to clickbait things for your shows to try to move the popularity forward. And I understand why, because it is a pathway sometimes to doing it. I just hate that that's where I'm more lamenting that that's where media is at times, that you feel like the best path for you to get to the level you want to get to and the popularity you want to get to is to go down these roads. And then it's like you forgot that this was about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. And then you're also turning what happened, a hard foul in a game, into a much bigger thing than it really is. Like, I hate all of it. I hate all of it. And you know what, guys, like, I don't even know. I'm giving you the attention now, which is exactly what you want. You want everybody to talk about what you guys are talking about. And in this case, it just ticked me off that they actually baited me into doing that. But I just felt like I don't know. I talk about the media a lot. This infuriated me seeing, because it's everything about the sports media that I don't like any longer. And both of them were engaged in it. Not one of them, both of them. And I actually do tend to more agree with RG3 here. You don't go after someone's wife or choice of spouse. Yep. That was way out of line. Like way out of line.
What I thought was really weird is Ryan is usually very good with his podcast, gets great guests. Like he had Jaden Daniels' mom on a couple weeks ago. I played some clips from that one, and he actually doesn't usually go this route. Robert does, but they were both kind of flipped on how they usually act, which I thought was a little bit of a shock.
I don't know. He had Andrew Schultz on, who I like a lot. I think is very funny, and he tried to bait him and got him to come on his show to talk about the treatment of black women. And so he's been going down this road, Ryan. I think he thinks this is how he's going to get more popular than he is. And I hate it. All right, real quick. The conference final starts tonight in both sports. So let's see who you got. I'm going to do, let's see. I think that OKC Minnesota series is actually going to be a good one. Amid all of the ones that really haven't been up to this point, I think that one's going to be a good one. I got a funny feeling Ant's going to come through, even though I think OKC's a better team. So I got Minnesota getting through, because I think Ant takes over maybe a couple of games, because I think he's kind of been there, done that in the playoffs and done a little bit. So I think OKC's a better team, and I think Minnesota's going to win. And as far as the Knicks start, the Knicks fans are going to lose their crap if Indiana actually knocks them off. I actually like Indiana a little better, but I think the New York crowd and kind of the overwhelming sentiment is going to carry the Knicks. So I got Knicks Timberwolves in the finals of the NBA.
You're going with the team that made the major trade of the offseason, that they traded their each other's players to each other, and they're both going to make it. I will modify a little bit. I'm not buying the Knicks yet. Like, I think they beat Boston. Boston goes down. Tatum goes down with a major injury. I think they got a little bit lucky there to finish off the series. I'm going to go with Pacers Timberwolves. I think OKC kind of reminds me of the Eagles. Like, they have a better roster, but it's hard to pick against Ant. So that's where I got it. So I'm going Timberwolves Pacers for the final.
So for hockey, Carolina, Florida starts tonight. I got Carolina in game one because they've had a lot of time here and they're at home. So I'm going to take Carolina game one. That's a toss-up series to me. I do think the way that Florida had to battle to get and come back and all this in that series, I think it's going to win them. I'm going to take Carolina in this series, but It's 6 or 7. And then I got Edmonton on the other side. I think Edmonton returns. So I think you're seeing a rematch of the Stanley Cup final.
No. Oh, no.
I think Edmonton's going to get there, and I think Edmonton's going to win this year personally.
No, I'm not doing a rematch. I'm picking the two best goaltenders left on the board. That's Jake Ottinger in Dallas, and that's Bobrovsky in Florida. I think Florida takes care of Carolina. They have a better goaltender. Florida, I will say this. Florida plays more like the Caps than the Caps and them play like the Hurricanes. They are a little bit more muck it up. The thing is, they have the bar none number one enemy that drags you into those BS fights, and his name is Brad Marchand. And so good luck preventing him from trying to muck it up a little bit, and Sam Bennett and a couple of the other players that are on Florida. Florida right now is in the middle of a literal dynasty run here, an all-time run. They know how to win close games. They win every game 7 now. I think Carolina, I've said this before, if the Caps had tightened up that series, psychologically, I think they were going to be better off. It never got to that point. Florida is going to be psychologically way better off than Carolina will. So I think Florida wins this series. And then on the Western Conference side, give me the better goaltender. Jake Ottinger was amazing against Winnipeg. The Oilers have started multiple goaltenders this run. Yeah, I'm just going to go very simple and pick the better goaltender here. Dallas, Florida, Stanley Cup final, which I think the league is panicking a little bit because that sounds like the most ridiculous Stanley Cup final of all time in terms of region. So
I'm a little toss up on Florida, Carolina. I hear you on Florida, but I'm a little toss up on them. I think that's going to be a 6 or 7 game series. I think this is Edmonton's year. They were that close a year ago. They've kind of come back from the dead a couple of times here, and they have all-time players in their prime playing for them. So I got Edmonton winning it all, actually. And I hear you on the goaltender part. I think if they had a better goaltender, they'd be unbeatable. But
agreed.
But that's where I am. All right, everybody.
Ultimately, I am picking Florida to win the Stanley Cup, though. They go back-to-back. That's my actual pick. Yeah.
All right. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Brad Watch the show, ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.